guys, for this video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a book review on, it's called the Football 100. It's put out by The Athletic, and it's, well, exactly what it sounds like. You know, a list of 100 greatest football players of all time according to The Athletic. And, you know, I'm not going to go into, like, all the players that were on there. I'm more going to go into some things I noticed as I was reading it, some trends that kind of indicated why exactly they were great. So, yeah, let's get started. So one thing I noticed as I was reading the book is how often it came up that one of the players played multiple sports, and so obviously having multiple sports, you probably build up different talents that can ultimately benefit you in football. Patrick Mahomes is one of them. He played both basketball and baseball, and he was great at both of them. Kind of his throwing style, you kind of can connect that back to baseball, and so and then of course Bo Jackson, another very famous football player. He also played baseball, and there's this whole, like, wasn't he with was it the Raiders or the Ravens? I don't know. But he had this whole thing, you know, with one of the teams, and he ultimately went and played baseball instead because he, I guess, didn't want to play for this other team, and, you know, because of, I guess, the contract, he couldn't go play for any other football team, and so he just refused to play football. He just went and played baseball instead. Then, of course, Deion Sanders. If you're in sports today, you know he's kind of getting some buzz in, you know, football, college football, but he's one of the only people to appear in both the Super Bowl and the World Series, so that was interesting. And of course, Russell Wilson, he was also a baseball player. He was actually drafted by the Baltimore Orioles, and so, although he wasn't in this book, you know, he wasn't one of the 100, but I thought it, once again, he was at one time talks to go into the Football Hall of Fame. We'll see about that now. And of course, Tom Brady was also drafted into the MLB. So something real common is, you know, with these players, you know, playing a lot of different sports, and I guess you could say that's because they're very competitive, and so they are, you know, will play anything just so they, you know, can win. But something else I noticed, which kind of, I guess these are one of the things that makes me roll my eyes, how some of the players complained about football players today being too soft. Like the one that really comes to mind is Jim Otto. He played for the Raiders. He was the center. I guess he was very proud of the fact that he almost died 3 times from infections that he had. He got from operations done because of injuries he attained on the field, and so, you know, and he ultimately is crippled for the rest of his life, but, you know, he seemed very proud of the fact, which I never got football players who will literally almost kill themselves to play football. If you get injured, you get hurt, it decreases the chance of you actually being able to play, so it really doesn't, I guess it just doesn't make sense to me why some of these players will just get these horrendous injuries, or you know, just continually, like, playing through a serious injury, instead of just taking time and healing and possibly losing, so that at least you still will be able to play and possibly win more later. It's one of the things that confuses me about football players. And then, of course, something that's very problematic, I guess, in the football today's CTE. The brain injuries or brain disease, I guess you could call it, caused by repeated hits to the head. And so, it gets more buzz nowadays because of, new evidence coming to light about its existence, for one, but also kind of its seriousness. And now, like, some current football players are questioning whether or not they also suffered from CTE. Antonio Brown, I think that's his name, kind of going down a spiral, so people speculating it's maybe CTE. But yeah, I mean, I won't say I'm not surprised, because you're literally continually, like, for 2 hours, repeatedly getting hit in the head over the course of, like, multiple years. So something else, how a lot of these football players devote so much time to their craft, if you will. So film study, practice, they'll devote their entire life to it. And so one of the big ones, of course, Tom Brady. One of the things they said in the book is how he, after losing to the Chiefs, he didn't actually go home with the other players. He stayed and started watching film, so that I guess he can, get better and win next time and all that. Of course, Drew Brees was also very much a good player, and Peyton Manning was one I found was very interesting. He, of course, was great for the Colts, but a neck issue. It was a genetic issue that ultimately ended his brother Cooper's career, but he decided that he's going to get surgery so that he can fix it so they can keep playing. And what I found interesting was that to test how, whether or not, I guess, he could still play and how much he, needed to improve, I'm not sure what game it was, but he took a tape of a game and replicated the game in the tape exactly. He got people to play both sides, and then he replicated everything down to the times for each play, the plays, the penalties, all that and stuff like that, to, I guess, determine how different his play is between, before the surgery and after the surgery. And I thought it was really interesting. And of course, Mahomes, I think it's Kelsey talked about how he would devote so much time to film, studying film. Talks about how he and Mahomes went to Mahomes' wife's volleyball game, and Patrick was in the car just watching film. So kind of devoting a lot of time to practice and studying his opponents. Something I thought was also interesting about Patrick Mahomes, he went to the Athlete Performance Enhancement Center when he was younger to, really help him perfect his craft. And that's where the I don't say coach, the guy who worked with him really pushed him to embrace his creativity. So I think that's also why he is the way he is, because, he was taught to just be creative. And he has the skills, he has the ability to kind of pull that off. Some players just don't have the skills to do it, And so some of the things that Patrick Mahomes does, other, quarterbacks wouldn't be able to do. Patrick, of course, also has the insane ability to just, analyze the field and just his mind works really fast, I guess you could say, when playing, so that he can kind of analyze everything and then make a decision quickly. And it's just really impressive to me, because I know I'd be like, get crushed every time, because I'd be over analyzing everything. But yeah, and another with Patrick, he was also open to learning when he came on to Chiefs. Alex Smith was the quarterback at that time, and instead of just kind of viewing Patrick as a threat, he kind of took him under his wing and taught him how kind of the ins and outs of just playing in the NFL, teaching him how different it is and how to cope and stuff like that. I think that really helped him, I think, because getting that experience, that knowledge from, a veteran quarterback, and then him having the skills to kind of, pull off what he's pulled off, it just really, I think, accelerated his career, I guess you could say. It was also interesting to see how players have changed the game over time. So I think what was his name? Fran Tarkenton. He's the one who kind of made people take notice of scrambling quarterbacks. Because something that made me laugh, because I'm fairly certain he also said it. He talked about how he's runs all the time, or he has a great ability to run all the time because he's just scared. Because, he doesn't want to get hit. And the same with Patrick. Patrick is like, the reason I'm so fast is because of fear. And he had the clip where they caught him saying that, if they had someone chasing him at the combine, he probably would have been faster. But yeah, it was fascinating to see how players have changed the game to what it is now, and how they are continuing to change the game. Seeing what rules were created because of certain players, like Dick Lane, who would grab players by their face masks so often that they eventually made it a penalty in the 50s to protect, the players. And I think there's someone else, I don't think he was in the 100, but he is also the reason for why that horse collar was created, the rule against the horse collar, because so many players were getting their legs broken because of the play. So those were just some trends I noticed throughout the book. And so I grew up, I was interested in football, but it was more like the Super Bowls. I was very much interested in that, and so I know like a good idea of who won the Super Bowls and who are kind of dominant back in the day, but player-wise, besides just quarterbacks, I don't remember much growing up. So I learned a lot about the earlier ones, definitely the ones I did not grow up watching. So as to the accuracy of the book, I mean, it pretty much has all the popular players. It's just, the rankings is based on, the athletic, who they thought was the best. And who's the number one. But Patrick Mahomes was on there. He's only 98. Travis Kelce was not on there at all, which confused me, because even if you're trying to say recency biased or something like that, he is still already one of the best tight ends of all time. I think this is, up to his like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th season, I can't remember, but just the fact he's not on there, but Gronk is, despite the fact that, you know, Kelsey is, I can't remember for sure. I'll just say if he hasn't already passed Gronk on a lot of his accomplishments, he's really close. So I have absolutely no idea why he's not on there. Aaron Donald is on there, despite the fact he's still playing. You know, Aaron Rodgers just in there, of course. So I don't know why Kelsey was in there. It was more just, you know, minor irritation, I guess. But yeah, I did think it was interesting. And so if you actually want to read the book, if you love football, I think you would get a kick out of it if you want to learn more about some of the earlier players. If you know nothing about football, I think you could learn a lot. It's not out yet, because I got an advanced copy, but it's going to be out at the end of October. So I definitely, if you want to watch or read it, then go, keep an eye towards the end of the October. So yeah, so that was my book review of The Atlantic's The Football 100. So if you did like this video, give a like, subscribe to get notification for all the videos I'll be doing. You guys have a nice night. Stay safe out there. I'll talk to you later.